Have you ever wondered why evil seems so bold, and yet why God's love never fails? Psalm chapter 36 contrasts the darkness of human wickedness with the boundless mercy, faithfulness, and righteousness of God. It's a reminder that no matter how great the evil around us, God's love is greater still. Psalm chapter 36 verse 1. The transgression of the wicked saith within my heart, that there is no fear of God before his eyes. David reflects on what sin reveals about the wicked. Their persistent transgression is evidence of a deeper problem: no fear of God. Without reverence for God, sin dominates. To fear God is not terror but holy awe, recognizing his authority and holiness. When that's absent, a person feels free to do whatever pleases their sinful heart. The absence of the fear of God is the root of much evil. When people stop revering God, moral boundaries disappear. As believers, we should cultivate a healthy fear of the Lord, reverence, respect, and submission, which keeps us from sin. Proverbs chapter 8 verse 13. Ask yourself, does my life show that I live with the awareness that God sees everything? Sin thrives where the fear of God is absent, but when reverence for the Lord fills your heart, it shapes your choices, restrains evil, and directs your life toward holiness. Psalm chapter 36 verse 2. For he flattereth himself in his own eyes, until his iniquity be found to be hateful. The wicked person flatters himself, he deceives himself into thinking he's fine, even while living in sin. His pride blinds him to the seriousness of his actions, but eventually, his sin is exposed for what it truly is: hateful and destructive. Sin may seem sweet for a moment, but in the end, it shows its ugliness. Beware of self-deception. It's easy to excuse or minimize our own sins while seeing others' faults clearly. Ask God to reveal truth about yourself. Psalm chapter 139 verses 23 to 24. His Spirit exposes sin not to condemn but to lead us to repentance. Remember, hidden sin always grows, but when brought into the light, healing and freedom come. Self-flattery blinds the heart, but God's truth reveals sin for what it is. Humility before him keeps us from being deceived by our own pride. Psalm chapter 36 verse 3. The words of his mouth are iniquity and deceit. He hath left off to be wise, and to do good. David describes how sin shows up in the wicked person's speech. His mouth overflows with iniquity and deceit. Words that are twisted, corrupt, and untrue. He has abandoned wisdom and goodness. At some point, he chose to stop walking in the fear of the Lord and instead embraced foolishness. Speech is a mirror of the heart. Luke chapter 6 verse 45. When someone's words are consistently deceitful, it reflects a heart that has turned from God. Watch your words, they reveal what's going on inside. Are your words building up, or tearing down? Truthful, or deceptive? Ask God to help your mouth become an instrument of his wisdom and goodness. Ephesians chapter 4 verse 29. Remember that forsaking wisdom doesn't usually happen overnight. It begins when we leave off small acts of goodness and truth. Stay diligent. The mouth reveals the heart. When wisdom and goodness are abandoned, deceit takes their place, but when Christ rules the heart, truth and grace flow from the lips. Psalm chapter 36 verse 4. He deviseth mischief upon his bed, he setteth himself in a way that is not good, he abhorreth not evil. David shows how deep sin runs in the wicked. He deviseth mischief upon his bed, even in the quiet of the night. Instead of resting, his mind is plotting evil. He setteth himself in a way that is not good, he deliberately chooses sinful paths. It's not accidental, but intentional. He abhorreth not evil, he has lost all hatred for sin. What once may have seemed wrong now feels normal. This paints a sobering picture of a hardened heart, planning sin, walking in sin, and feeling no guilt over sin. Guard your thoughts, especially in quiet moments. Sin often starts in the imagination before it becomes action. Be intentional about setting yourself in the way that is good. Psalm chapter 1 verses 1 to 2, rather than drifting into ungodly habits. Ask God to keep your heart tender, so you never lose the ability to hate evil and love righteousness. Sin grows strongest where it is welcomed in thought, practiced in action, and excused in the heart. A godly life begins with guarding the mind and hating what God hates. Psalm chapter 36 verse 5. Thy mercy, O Lord, is in the heavens, and thy faithfulness reacheth unto the clouds. After describing the corruption of the wicked, VV.1 to 4, David turns his eyes upward to God's greatness. Thy mercy is in the heavens, God's covenant love, Hebrew. Hesed, is vast, immeasurable, and limitless, stretching higher than the skies. Thy faithfulness reacheth unto the clouds. God's trustworthiness is towering and dependable, reaching as far as the human eye can see and beyond. The contrast is powerful. Human wickedness is deep, but God's mercy and faithfulness are higher, stronger, and eternal. When sin and wickedness surround you, lift your eyes to God's mercy and faithfulness. They are far greater than the world's evil. God's mercy is not small or limited. It covers all who seek Him. Psalm chapter 103 verse 11. His faithfulness doesn't waver. Even when people fail you, God's promises stand firm, unto the clouds. Evil may run deep, but God's mercy runs higher. His faithfulness towers over every circumstance, giving His people confidence and hope. Psalm chapter 36 verse 6. Thy righteousness is like the great mountains. Thy judgments are a great deep, O Lord, thou preservest man and beast. David continues praising God's character, using vivid imagery. Thy righteousness is like the great mountains, strong, immovable, majestic, unshakable. God's moral perfection is as firm as mountains that stand through generations. Thy judgments are a great deep. God's wisdom and decisions are vast and unfathomable, like the depths of the sea, beyond human comprehension. Thou preservest man and beast. God's care extends to all creation, showing His mercy and sustaining power for both humanity and animals. When life feels unstable, remember God's righteousness is solid and unmovable, like a mountain beneath your feet. Trust His judgments even when you don't fully understand them. They are as deep as the ocean, mysterious but perfect. God's care for man and beast reminds us that His providence covers every detail of life. Matthew chapter 6 verse 26. God's righteousness is unshakable, His wisdom unfathomable, and His care universal. You can trust Him completely, even when you can't see the full picture. Psalm chapter 36 verse 7. How excellent is thy loving kindness, O God! Therefore the children of men put their trust under the shadow of thy wings. David now turns from God's greatness in creation to His personal care for His people. How excellent is thy loving kindness! God's steadfast love, Hesed, is precious, priceless, and beyond compare. It is the greatest treasure a believer can know. Therefore the children of men put their trust under the shadow of thy wings. Like a mother bird spreading her wings to protect her young, God's love is a place of safety, covering, and rest. This verse highlights both the value of God's love and the security it provides. Trusting in God's love is the only safe refuge in a world filled with sin and danger. When fear rises, picture yourself under the shadow of His wings, close, safe, and guarded by His care. Psalm chapter 91 verse 4. God's loving kindness isn't abstract, it's personal. It draws us into trust and intimacy with Him. God's love is priceless, and His care is protective. True safety is found not in circumstances, but in trusting under the shadow of His wings. Psalm chapter 36 verse 8. They shall be abundantly satisfied with the fatness of thy house, and thou shalt make them drink of the river of thy pleasures. David now describes the joy and abundance of living in God's presence. Abundantly satisfied, God's people don't just get by, they are filled to overflowing. His blessings leave no lack. The fatness of thy house, a picture of rich feasting in God's presence, symbolizing fellowship with Him and the fullness of His provision. The river of thy pleasures, God's delights flow like an endless river, refreshing and satisfying the soul. The word, pleasures, can also be understood as delights, or blessings. This verse shifts from protection, verses 7, to abundant provision in God. The world offers temporary satisfaction, but only God provides true abundance that satisfies the soul. Fellowship with God is like sitting at His table and drinking deeply from His blessings. This points us to Christ, who invites us to living water, John chapter 7 verses 37 to 38, and the marriage supper of the Lamb, Revelation chapter 19 verse 9. In God's presence there is abundant satisfaction, a feast for the soul and a river of joy that never runs dry. Psalm chapter 36 verse 9. For with thee is the fountain of life, in thy light shall we see light. This verse is the theological center of the psalm. With thee is the fountain of life. God Himself is the source of all life, both physical and spiritual. Like a spring that never runs dry, His presence continually sustains and refreshes. In thy light shall we see light. God's light gives us true sight. Without Him, life is darkness. With Him, we see reality clearly. This speaks of revelation, truth, and guidance. It points forward to Christ, who declared himself the living water, John chapter 4 verse 14, and the light of the world, John chapter 8 verse 12. If you want true life, seek it in God, not in wealth, pleasure, or self. He is the fountain. God's light exposes lies and guides your steps. Stay close to Him, and you'll see clearly in a dark world. Spiritual blindness comes from rejecting God's light, but spiritual vision comes from living in His truth. God is both the source of life and the giver of light. To know Him is to be alive and to see clearly. Psalm chapter 36 verse 10. O continue thy loving kindness unto them that know thee, and thy righteousness to the upright in heart. David, having just celebrated God as the fountain of life and light, verses 9, now prays for His blessings to remain with His people. Continue thy loving kindness. God's hesed, steadfast love, is constant, but David humbly asks for its ongoing expression in the lives of those who know Him. Unto them that know thee. This is not just intellectual knowledge but covenant relationship. To know God means to walk in fellowship with Him. Thy righteousness to the upright in heart. David prays that God's justice and faithfulness will be experienced by those who are sincere and faithful in their devotion. Pray not only for God's blessing today but for His continued mercy in your life. Knowing God is the key to experiencing His steadfast love. Relationship always precedes blessing. Strive to keep an upright heart, one that is sincere, not divided. God delights to pour out His righteousness on those who walk in integrity. God's love and righteousness flow continually to those who know Him and walk uprightly. A sincere heart keeps you under the stream of His blessing. Psalm chapter 36 verse 11. Let not the foot of pride come against me, and let not the hand of the wicked remove me. David shifts into a prayer for protection. The foot of pride, a picture of arrogant people trying to trample him down or dominate him. Pride often seeks to crush others. The hand of the wicked remove me. The wicked seek to uproot him, to drive him away from safety and stability. David recognizes that human pride and wickedness are real threats, but God alone can keep him secure. Pride in others can feel oppressive, but God resists the proud and upholds the humble. James chapter 4 verse 6. The enemy's goal is to remove you from God's path, through pressure, fear, or temptation. Pray for God's hand to hold you firm. Psalm chapter 37 verses 23 to 24. This verse reminds us that true security doesn't come from position or strength, but from God's protection. Pride seeks to trample, and wickedness seeks to uproot, but God keeps His people secure when they depend on Him. Psalm chapter 36 verse 12. There are the workers of iniquity fallen. They are cast down, and shall not be able to rise. David ends the psalm with a vision of final judgment. Workers of iniquity, those who live in deliberate sin, opposed to God. Fallen, cast down, their apparent success is temporary. In the end, they collapse under God's justice. Shall not be able to rise, unlike the righteous, who may fall but rise again. Proverbs chapter 24 verse 16. The wicked are permanently overthrown. This final line is a declaration of confidence in God's justice. Evil will not stand forever. Don't envy the wicked when they seem to prosper. Their downfall is certain if they remain unrepentant. God's justice may feel delayed, but He will bring the wicked low and vindicate His people. For the believer, this verse is a reminder of hope. The wicked may trouble you now, but they cannot rise against God's eternal kingdom. The wicked may rise for a season, but in the end they will fall and never rise again. God's justice ensures the final victory belongs to Him and His people. Like, share and subscribe to Living Word Media and let God's Word strengthen your walk today.